families and we support children for our future. So I commend this bill. Thank you.
I thank the member for Wentworth and I call the member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm so proud and excited today to talk about Labor's Cheaper Childcare Bill, formally, in our budget, handed down last night, but one of the earliest parts of our platform that we announced in the previous term, in fact, in the now Prime Minister's first budget reply. And I was particularly excited to attend one of the events visiting a childcare centre in my electorate with the now Prime Minister and the then Shadow Minister for Early Childhood, the member for Kingston, at the Campbell Cottage in my electorate, which is run by the YWCA, with my little girl, Elena, when she was just 3 weeks old. It was her first press conference and she handled it pretty well. But this is such an important bill. It's good for children, it's good for families, and it's good for our economy. As a parent, and as all parents that use early childhood education and care know just how critically important this is. We understand the benefit and the incredible work of early childhood educators, and I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. As I say, as a parent, but also as a local member, having met with many of the wonderful centres in my electorate and visiting those, and meeting with delegations of workers in that sector over the years about, just recognising the many layers of the work that they do. They are educators, they are teaching the youngest children, and we know that this is just so critically important that the first 5 years really set up children for their life. So that learning is critically important, and there's a real skill and expertise in doing that. In the ever-expanding curiosity of toddlers and babies and preschool-aged children, to respond to that with the patience and the way to communicate with them is really something incredible. And as parents, we all do a little bit of that, but our early childhood educators do that all day with a range of children. Throughout the pandemic, when COVID first hit, our early childhood educators were some of the most affected frontline workers that just had to front up in those really uncertain times to keep our economy going and to keep caring for families. And under the previous government, there was a policy roller coaster for those centres, worried for their own health, worried about would they need to lay off their workers, and worried about the families that they support. So I just want to again thank all the early childhood educators for what they did through that time. For families and for Australians. This bill makes it so more families can access early childhood education and care and these great benefits for their families. This bill will benefit around 96% of families, or 1.26 million Australian families, by making their childcare more affordable. And again, anyone that uses childcare knows it is very expensive and those costs have been rising. In fact, 41% over the last 8 years is the national figure, and I know that Canberra has some of the highest childcare fees in the country, and this is something I obviously, of course, hear a lot about from my constituents and know myself. So this bill will really make a change for families, enabling them to access more of that great education for their children, but enabling them also, particularly mothers, to get back into the workforce or increase their hours of work, which we've heard that too many people are stopped from working as much as they would like or seeking work because of the costs of childcare. In fact, according to the ABS last year, 73,000 people who wanted to work didn't look for work because they couldn't make childcare costs work for them, which is really, we are robbing our economy of that potential. We are robbing those young children of that opportunity for early childhood education, and we're robbing those families of the chance to have that ability to get back into the workforce. I think another lesser-known sort of thing about early childhood education and care that I often hear from the centres in my electorate, it's not just the great education, it's not just providing that opportunity for families to get back into work, but it's the care for those children and the families. It goes without saying the sort of bottomless cup of patience that you have to deal with preschool-aged children. Don't start me, basically. But it's also for the families, and I've heard stories from early childhood educators in our community about families that they knew in the pandemic, that actually weren't, and not just in the pandemic but other times, who, really needed the support, who hadn't been paying their fees, but that they allowed some of those families to continue using childcare. In one case where a centre told me that this was because they knew that the children were only getting regular meals when they were at childcare because this family was struggling so much. And this was a not-for-profit provider, but that continued on with that. Just recently at another centre, I heard a story of a family where the mother had to go overseas following the death of a relative, and where the father, they found that they could help him out by providing meals to him as well, because he was really struggling in this family crisis that they were having. So it's that really key part in our community that these centres play as well. So I really just want to acknowledge our early childhood educators and providers as part of this discussion as well, particularly as last week was Early Learning Matters Week. And, as part of that week, I went to visit the Guardian Centre in Alara Street, right near my office, and thank you to Hayley and Payman and the whole team there for showing me around, and the wonderful children that let me make some Play-Doh with them and read a story with them. And, of course, to the centre where my children go, I'm just so indebted to the help and support and wonderful learning that you provide to my two children, which means so much to our family. This is really, again, just to focus on the economic side. An important part of our policy is that we are increasing subsidy rates for all families earning less than $530,000. This is expanding this to almost universal standards, really, for our community. It's about saying that early childhood education and care is not something different from school education. It is something that we know is critically important. The science shows about the importance of education for the youngest children and how that sets them up for life. And so why do we see it differently as the access that we have to public education? And I think this is a really important step in that direction towards a fully universal system which enables more families to access this. We've heard through our Jobs Summit and before that just how important women's participation is to our economy. Again, it is too often the mothers who are the ones that the childcare is seen as being part of coming out of their wage, not the family wage, because they tend to be the lower earner. And I'm also particularly proud that we have made closing the gender pay gap such an important part of our platform. This is an excellent bill. I'm incredibly proud, and this will benefit many Canberra families. In fact, in the ACT, it will benefit around 23,200 families in the ACT, including 8,900 in the electorate of Canberra, which I represent. And, this is spread all around the country. There are thousands of families in every electorate who will benefit from this. But that number in my electorate is to the higher end of those, and I'm really pleased that Canberra families can benefit from this, and really pleased to support the bill today.
I thank the member for